Hey guys, back wrapping up the series on the NFC. We're going to do the NFC West on this video. It's going to include the Rams, the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Seahawks. A couple playoff teams, some big time players on these rosters. So we'll just start it off. Let's start off with the Rams. All right, Matthew Stafford. Yay, everybody wants him. He's a good middle of the road starting running or quarterback, right? Enough said about Stafford. I think Cooper Kupp, same difference. Enough said about him. I mean, the only thing I can say about Cooper Kupp is maybe if you are thinking that he's a little bit long in the tooth, that there's going to be a regression to the mean with him as far as his play, with his points, fantasy wise. Maybe he's a guy you want to trade. Maybe you can trade him for a guy right at the top 10, a younger guy, say like a T. Higgins, and maybe get a pick or something back because of the value of him currently being so high. And then you also get years and a pick because you traded Cooper Kupp. Those are things that I might think about if I had a lot of shares of Cooper. So be that as it may. Odell Beckham was supposed to be on the roster, isn't. Don't worry about him until week 10. He's not making a decision. So there you have it. I guess we're going down the wide receivers, so we're going to talk about Robinson. Robinson is a guy who I like. I've picked up a couple extra shares, actually starting at the end of last year, knowing that he was going to be a free agent, knowing that he'd be able to pick where he would want to go, and so I lucked out that he landed with the Rams. So I do like his opportunity. If there's one guy in an offense that you want as a second wide receiver to actually be starting for your team, as one of the few guys would probably be Robinson, right? So with that being said, Van Jefferson, he's the third wide receiver. He's going to be a boomer bust guy. If you can wind up picking the weeks that he scores touchdowns, good for you. I mean, I don't want to be in that situation because I'm always going to pick wrong. It's just the way it's going to be for me. Tyler Higbee is a fine tight end. He's a great backup tight end. There's not much value there. I know from having him in several leagues and trying to trade him, not much value in him. I could not trade him in many leagues. So with that being said, yeah, that's Tyler Higbee. That's Tyler Higbee. Not Tyler Durden, Tyler Higbee. At any rate, so I guess what was it? Running backs. Let's start up, go from the bottom to the top. Henderson is a fine backup running back as far as fantasy is concerned. I mean, I know that the Rams aren't happy with him being a backup running back. They're always looking for something better, which may lead into Kyron Williams, who has the foot injury, and he probably won't be playing much at all this year. So, I mean, they drafted him for next year anyways. It really doesn't matter about him. So he might be a deep stash for you. So that just basically leaves Cam Akers as far as a running back. I love me some Cam Akers. My startup league, which is just loaded, I drafted him in like the 8th round just for this year. That's one of the reasons why I'm that loaded roster. I wound up having the first pick is because everybody was hurt that I drafted him and ETN so at any rate, Akers, I think that he's getting a bad rap also. So maybe he's a guy that you can pick up that's a little bit cheap. Everybody wants to talk about his playoff performances, right? We're in June now. Right now is when we should be hearing about Akers being healthy and starting to hit the field, not back in December. Think about that, right? Secondly, what were the defenses that he was playing against? These were really good defenses, and a couple of them are really good run defenses in particular. 6 months after an Achilles tear, you're playing football and you're playing the best defenses, and people are criticizing you because you don't look explosive enough, or you're not averaging enough yards, but you're still good enough to beat out Darrell Henderson, right? And Darrell Henderson had 163 points. Sony Michel had virtually about the same point total. You're better than them after 6 months of an Achilles tear. All right, let's give him 8 more months to recuperate afterwards and see what he's like. Oh, by the way, do you remember when he knocked the guy out by running him over in the playoffs? That doesn't look like that's not explosive or powerful. So Take it with a grain of salt. I am not scared of with Akers. He may be a freak of nature coming back. At least we know that he wants it, so that's good enough for me. He's going to be the workhorse in that backfield. He's going to catch passes. He's going to get the goal line, the short yards. He's going to not come off the field until he's puking, basically. So those are the kind of guys I want, right? And he's young, and he's hungry. I mean, he's had injuries both his 2 years. I guess that's the biggest concern is he going to get hurt again? A guy like Robert Smith was hurt his first couple of years, and then he stayed healthy. Boom, nothing else. Adrian Peterson, had his injury problems early. How long did he play? How good was he? I mean, there's guys that, are hurt in the beginning of their careers, especially as running backs, and then that's not really an issue. Hopefully that he's going to be one of those type of guys, right? So with that being said, I think that I've covered pretty much mostly the Rams roster. Let's get into the Arizona Cardinals. I'll try to make this one a little bit quicker. Arizona. Let's start with senior quarterback, right? Kyler Murray. I'm out on Kyler Murray. Just out on him. He plays half years. He scores good half years, and then he's done. I think that when he came out of college, I just said he's just too small. If you look at him compared to his first year or two, he's put on a lot of weight. He's losing his legs, which is his biggest asset in the league, was his mobility and his elusiveness. If you have a small guy who can't get outside of the pocket, can't see over the big guys, what do you have? You pretty much got nothing if you can't see over the offensive lineman, which is becoming more and more what it looks like. I heard last year that the Seahawks and the 49ers, I think, figured it out, and the Rams were copying him. They kept him in the pocket 2 years ago, and that's when you saw his production dip because he has a difficult time seeing over the offensive lineman. It makes sense. It may not be the case, but I'm throwing it out there. So I really don't like Kyler Murray. I didn't like him originally coming out. He's proven me wrong so far, but I mean, he could crash and burn at any time. James Conner. I like him as a talent. I don't think he can stay healthy. He's going to wind up getting hurt. And then the question is going to become, who is the backup? Is it Williams or is it Eno? Or is it Ingram? I think that Ingram is a nice little stash, maybe. Williams will get some playing time, but I think that ultimately Eno Benjamin will probably wind up being the backup in this offense. And he could easily become Chase Edmonds' role in this offense and Connor go back to what he was. So it would basically be Eno Benjamin would be the starter at that point. So I do think that Eno Benjamin is kind of a guy who could kind of be a sneaky play. And I could easily see Williams doing the same thing, right? Outside chance that Ingram could do that. But somebody's going to take over the main role. Connor's not going to do it the entire year, and they want to split backfield anyways because that's how they had it set up last year. Look for that. So if you're overvaluing Connor, if you think that Connor's going to put up 240 or 250 more points this year, you're going to be sorely mistaken when he doesn't scratch 200. So just putting that out there for you guys. Their tight end situation, Zach Ertz. Like Zach Ertz. Murray seems to like Zach Ertz also, which is even better. So if you don't have a decent starting tight end, easily pick him up for a third-round pick. Do it all day long. You want him for 2 or 3 years. They got McBride. You don't want McBride for 2 or 3 years because Ertz is going to be there. There's not going to be enough balls to support 2 tight ends in this offense. It's not the type of offense that's supposed to even really support a tight end, but Murray's more and more seeming to like the tight ends. So that really literally gets us down to the wide receivers. D-Hop, suspended. Yeah, you probably want him for the second half of the season if you can get him. If you can get him at a cheap price. So D-Hop is a good thing, but D-Hop will be 30 years old here shortly, and then he's going to be worth nothing. So you just got to have to weigh. Do you want the production or do you want the draft, the value with D-Hop, right? So you got to know where you are with your dynasty team as far as where you are productive struggle, or if you're winning mode, or if you're in just blow it up mode, then you want to get rid of them also. This is one spot where I do like Marquez Brown. Hollywood Brown. I do not like him as a player, but I think I'm going to like him this year just for the simple fact that him and Murray are best friends. So there's an already bond there between them. D-Hop is going to not be in there. It's going to strengthen it. So he's going to be the number one wide receiver to start with. So basically, I really see Hollywood Brown just plugging in for Christian Kirk. And they're going to have the exact same offense except for D-Hop's going to be gone for his 6-game suspension. Brown will have elevated numbers. D-Hop will be back. A.J. Green's going to get faded. He's still there. And, Moore is going to be still nothing. So I guess that's pretty much how it goes. If there's one wide receiver I would be going after would be Hollywood Brown for this year only. When D-Hop gets back, I would be looking at getting rid of him. And it's pretty much that simple with Arizona. There's not much more to say about them. The tale of two seasons within one season, both of the last 2 years for them. So we'll see how they pan out this year, right? Well, let's go with our next bet, and that's going to be the San Francisco 49ers. Let's just start off with the quarterback. Who is it going to be? It's going to be Trey Lance. Don't tease yourself about that. I mean, is there a realm of possibility that Garoppolo actually does start the season instead of Trey Lance? Well, I guess there is, but really, does that even make a difference? Okay, why is that? Well, Trey Lance has a better physical skills. Trey Lance is a better quarterback. They're going to go to Trey Lance regardless anyways at a certain point in the season, right? Oh, by the way, why did they draft Trey Lance in the first place? Because Garoppolo can't stay healthy. A la the shoulder surgery that they cannot trade him because of, right? Oh, every other year he plays 2 or 3 games and gets hurt. This is the year that he's going to play 2 or 3 years and get hurt. So even if they go with Garoppolo, Lance is going to be starting the vast majority of the games. So you only want Trey Lance. I think I've said enough on that one. All right. Now, why the heck I don't even have the rest of it pulled up here. Well, George Kittle. Let's say George Kittle, right? You want some George Kittle. Often injured George Kittle, just like Garoppolo. Love how he plays. Love him as a football player. Love him as a fantasy player, but I'm hesitant about him as a fantasy player because of the number of games he typically misses. So with that being said, even if he is a top 5 tight end, I'm not going to pay top 5 tight end prices because he's not going to be there the amount of games. I think in another video I said I actually think that Kittle is going to be done before Kelsey. So think about that, and it's not necessarily because of their ages, it's because of their style of play. So be that as it may, right? So let's get into, so I think I got quarterback, tight end covered. Wide receivers, why not? You only want Debo. I mean, Ayuk is a backup as in case he gets hurt. If Debo gets hurt, Ayuk could be very, very relevant. He could be a wide receiver too, but he's not going to be as long as Debo's there. I think it's just that simple. So then you get into the whole running back situation. They got a brand new running back again in the draft after drafting 2 last year. I think he's going to be Trey Sermon all over again. I think it was the management making the pick for him. He doesn't fit the offense. He doesn't fit the scheme. I don't think that it's going to work out. Him and Sermon, I don't think they're going to be no-goes for me. Literally in a bunch of leagues, I'm keeping Jeff Wilson instead of cutting him or picking 5th-round picks. Jeff Wilson, I have him. I think that there's a very easy track for him to get to be the starter. Number one, he was going to be the starter coming into last year, except for he hurt his knee lifting weights. So how far behind Mitchell would he be if he was healthy? He was obviously not healthy last year. So with that being said, yes, I do believe that Mitchell's going to be the starting running back to start the season. But what happens when he gets hurt? Because he gets hurt. He's got a track record of being hurt all the way back to high school. So what happens when he gets hurt? Who are they going to turn to? I believe it's going to be Jeff Wilson. If Jeff Wilson gets his starts, if Jeff Wilson does what Jeff Wilson can do, he's put up a bunch of 20-plus games in his limited starts for San Francisco. If he does that, I mean, are they going to go back to Mitchell or are they going to do Wilson? I mean, I think at worst it becomes a split backfield at that point. And then also the thing about the difference between Mitchell and Wilson is Wilson can catch the ball. Mitchell has a tough time with it, apparently, or supposedly. So that's one of the big knocks on him. So those are the whole, I guess, scenarios that I see, and it's kind of a topsy-turvy team, even though they were in the NFC Championship game last year, right? There's a lot of talent on the roster, a lot of offensive genius on the roster, but a lot of question marks on the roster. So I think I kind of ran through their team pretty quickly. Hopefully gave you a few salient points on them, and go from there. Now we have the dumpster fire. I mean, Seattle might be the New England Patriots of the NFC, right? Number one, we are in July, and their best quarterback is still on San Francisco's roster, Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Because that's who probably, after the Baker Mayfield trade, is presumably going to be their starting quarterback. If you're going into the season with Drew Lock and Geno Smith, just take a big red marker and put a line through DK Metcalf, put a line through Lockett, put a line through who's Eskridge, put a line through every wide receiver that they have on their roster. Put a line through every tight end, right? Don't want them. Unless they get a different quarterback. You don't want one of the quarterbacks either. You don't even want them on your roster. If you need to get one, you stream them. I mean, Tyler Lockett was only decent because he would basically be, he's a worse version of Tyreek Hill. Wilson would roll around and extend plays like Mahomes did and chuck it deep to Lockett. That's how Lockett got many of his yards, many of his big games. Very similar to Hill and very similar to Mahomes, right? With that being said, Metcalf was by far the better of the two wide receivers. But who's throwing him the ball? Who is going to get him the ball? I don't see him getting the ball. So until they get the quarterback solved, I mean, think of Metcalf as a wide receiver 3 at best, probably. So he's not even on any of my boards that we're trying to get, right? The only place that you have some value or question marks really of this offense, and I don't even know if you want to do that, would be the running back situation. Very, again, comparable to New England. You got 6 running backs, and you don't really know who's going to wind up being the guy. So, Penny, right? Had a nice showing at the end of the year. He can't stay healthy. They've got a 1-year contract on him. They went and drafted Walker early. Penny's going to be there this year, and that's it. So, in Dynasty, if he doesn't stay healthy this year, he's going to at best be a backup somewhere for the veteran minimum, and he's going to hopefully try to hang on somewhere, even with what he did at the end of the year. Walker is presumably going to be the starting running back next year. So by halfway through the season, it probably could be him being the starting back and him playing first and second down for the most part. The question is, can he catch? Can he be a 3-down back? With that, the other question, the other running back that you want to think about really as far as playing to start with would be Eno Benjamin, who most likely would be the 3rd-down running back, right? Because he can catch, not DJ Dallas. DJ Dallas can catch the ball. So even if Penny is in or if Walker's in, both of them reportedly can't catch well. So you bring in DJ Dallas to be your 3rd-down running back, the pass-catching option. Well, are Geno Smith or Drew Lock, or are they going to be checking down a lot? It very well could be, and DJ could be kind of a little bit of a steal. I tried to hang on to him in a couple leagues, but I just couldn't. I just came to the decision that if he's still out there, I'll just pick him up. If I wind up getting, I'd rather go for more upside than that. Then the last guy in the backfield is Chris Carson. His neck injury. What is his neck injury about? Is he ever going to return? It sounds like it based off of what they were talking about in the OTAs that he's actually going to come back at some point. but I would suggest that he's probably going to start the year out on IR, and it very well could be that by week 6, by week 10, he comes off the IR and he's going to play. But by that time, Walker is probably going to be the starting running back. But then Chris Carson can spell him and be the third down running back. So the second half of the year, Chris Carson might be a sneaky like league type winner. So you just gotta have to watch out for that. If you can get him once the rosters open up and stash him on your IR. For me, I've got him in a couple of leagues and I'm hanging on to him, knowing that he's probably going to be an IR candidate. I don't draft, or I don't right now. I don't have a kicker or a defense on any of my teams. So I'm looking for injuries or to make trades while the preseason is going on. So Chris Carson fits in nicely with my role. So I've got several shares of him because assuming that he's going to be on the IR to start with, I plug him down and I can go pick up a defense or a kicker. So now I only need to make one more roster move. So he's going to be kind of a deep stash for me in many leagues, just because I was able to keep Chris Carson. So I'm hoping that something like that happens with him, so that way I can basically be getting an extra back for free at that time. Whenever Chris Carson does get healthy, presumably if he does get healthy. If not, I put him on my IR. He's taking up an IR spot. If my team goes that bad that I need that many IR spots, well, then I can always cut him because there's nothing lost. So those are my weird, wild projections of every team, guys who I like, who I don't like. This video should conclude the series. We're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck.